I think I got it all working. Here's my notes. Corley Moore. It's Firehouse Vigilance, weekly scrap, number 101. My guest this week is Anthony Rowett. He is a captain with Mobile, Alabama Fire Department. Previously a firefighter, Ogdensburg, I'll have him pronounce it later, New Jersey Fire Department. He has an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, a master's degree. He has all the paper. He has written articles published everywhere for multiple fire service publications. He has presented at multiple, I'm all over at conferences. I've caught him twice this year. He's also served as a lead hot instructor, so it's not just talking. He also instructs. Rowett is the founder of Port City Fire Training. So, my brother, Mr. Anthony Rowett, welcome to Weekly Scrap, episode 101.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you letting me come on, the opportunity. I know we've been talking about it for a while, and finally got some dates that work for both of us. And definitely looking forward to it, even though you're making me follow Chief Ike, which is kind of setting me up to fail right out the gate on that one.
You're a brave man because, following Ike, I can't even imagine. So
yeah, I got a few texts about that already. You're screwed. You got to follow Chief Ike.
Yeah, no doubt about. No, you're gonna crush it, brother. I have no doubt about it. How have you been? I think it was March I last saw you, right? Was it down in Texas, Kima?
Yeah, I've been doing good. Yeah, no, I saw you twice in 1 month, March in Florida, and then again in Texas. So yeah, it's been good. I don't think I've really seen Howard since then, which is weird. I usually see him a good bunch, but last time I've seen a bunch of people was probably that conference.
Right on.
Of that group, but yeah, I think that's the last time. But I've been good. How about you, man?
Going good. It was funny because we were worried about the storm hitting you, and then right before we started today, there's thunder and lightning all around here. So good.
Yeah, I don't like the storms you guys get in Oklahoma though.
Nah. Well, it's late. This is too late for storm season to matter here. I keep losing. Yeah. I'm trying to figure that out, guys. I'm sorry. I'm working on it. Immersive? No, I don't want immersive. Hold on. I was going to switch it up till I get it working. There we go. You're freezing on my screen here, but I'm getting it working. All right. I'm going to jump right into it with you. We got people logging in. Let me see the hype. There we go. Rowett is the man. That's from Joey Hayes. Todd Edwards said, looking good, brother. I'm pretty sure he was talking to you. Joe G. Wilson, a bunch of flexing arms. Yes, actually, there's a lot. My brother looking forward to some solid topics. Let's go from Jacob Johnson. Tony Nunes says, what's up, brothers? Glad you stayed dry, Cap. And there we go. Jared Van Eck said, good to see you, brother. Shane Bridges says, buckle up. Okay, so lots of hype. We're ready to kick it off. And we're going to kick it off with jumping right into disabilities awareness as a first responder. And I'll you tell me why it's near and dear to your heart.
All right, so and I'm going to start at the beginning and how it kind of worked into where I got involved with what I'm doing as far as with the first responders. Because to be honest, I used to be like a lot of people and just, ignorant to the topic, like didn't really know enough about it. And to say that until, I had a personal experience with it, that I was necessarily doing the best thing if we ran on, made a medical run on somebody with special needs, it'd be a lie, because I've learned so much about, I didn't know how to communicate with people the right way and things like that. And that's probably the biggest thing people are running into, is how to identify what they're dealing with as far as the type of special need and how to properly communicate with that person. But my oldest son, he's 7, and he was born. We didn't know anything up until the day he was born. They didn't find anything during any type of ultrasounds or anything like that during my wife's pregnancy. I'll never forget, he was born. He was born after, later in the afternoon, so all the doctors had left. And we find out the next day, the nurses knew right out the gate, but the nurses can't tell you. It has to be a doctor to tell you. So he's born, and we're told, hey, you got a healthy baby boy. And, man, ecstatic, on top of the world,
Right.
And the next morning, the doctors are going around, they're doing the rounds, checking all the babies, talking to the parents. And I realized, like, man, time's going by, and no one's coming in there to talk to us. I kind of I got a little bit of a temper, and I get hot-headed pretty quick. Anyone that knows me kind of tell you that. And I started getting pretty mad, like something ain't right, and I kind of opened the door and stood in the hallway trying to figure out what's going on. And the doctor saw me, and what he was doing is he talked to everybody and saved us for last, because he knew he was going to have to spend some time with us. And he's still my son's pediatrician now, and when we went to him, he's like, man, I never thought you'd speak to me again. But he came in there, and the way he broke it to us, like, we trust him with anything with him now, but he came in, and at the start of the conversation, it was, hey, congratulations, but there is a few things we want to look into a little bit. We want to dig in a little deeper and see what's going on. And he eased us into it. And by the end of about an hour-long conversation with him, he had let us know that my son was clinically diagnosed with Down syndrome. So they sent off they actually pulled some blood, and we have a picture in his room of his actual chromosomes, so you could see, that where the Down syndrome is, the third chromosome and all that, or the triple. And but he had told us by the end of that conversation that yes, we're going to do this test, but it's not going to change anything. We know what's going on here. Right. He has Down syndrome. And I'm like, okay, so this is probably 11:30, noonish, in early afternoon. And man, I went from the top of the world to I was crushed. I thought that was the end of the world. Like that was the worst thing that could happen.
Sure.
Nothing could be worse. And I look back on it and I don't understand that. I mean, I do, because I didn't understand it well enough to know. And I was young, so I wasn't the most mature about it. And you know what I mean? Like understanding it and processing it. But I just thought that was the end of the world. My son's got Down syndrome. Well, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to deal with this. How am I going to raise him? And I was kind of lost. And at the end of that conversation, he also told us that, about 50% of kids with Down syndrome are also born with a heart defect. They said they were bringing in a cardiologist. They were going to do a echo of his heart just to make sure that there wasn't anything we need to be concerned about with his heart.
Right.
So probably about 30 minutes later, they do the echo. We get the results. Again, they don't tell us anything. Got to get a phone call from the cardiologist. And the doctor calls and he's like, hey, the cardiologist is about to call you. And I kind of knew right there something wasn't going to be good. You just get that feeling.
Sure.
And she called, and I'm talking to her, and she tells me he's got a hole in his heart. So it's not just, there's some holes that, they close when you take your first breath. I forget the name of it. I'm not a paramedic, but everyone I work with seems to be able to tell me exactly what that is right away. And I always forget. But he also had another one that was kind of centered in his heart, and it was affecting basically both atriums and both ventricles of his heart. And he was in heart failure from the time he was born. And she told me, I'm immediately like, okay, well, what can we do? What's the chances that, he doesn't need an open heart surgery? That something can be done to fix it? What medicine can we give him? And it was just like, hey, man, reality's coming. There is no option. She just said he's going to have open heart surgery. We're gonna start monitoring him weekly. We're going to get you in touch with the surgeon once you pick which hospital you want to go to and all this. And so in a matter of about 2.5 hours, I went from ecstatic, healthy baby boy to he's got Down syndrome and he's got a hole in his heart. And he's going to need open heart surgery. And they kind of explained the surgery enough to where what I understood was at one point during the surgery, they're going to have to stop his heart to fix it. So I went from, top of the world to just absolutely crushed. Didn't know how I was going to handle it. Didn't know in my mind, like, how do I stay strong so my wife can deal with it? How do we do this? And my mind was immediately at the point, like, I'm going to bury my son. And it wasn't a good place for me. I couldn't talk to people. People would call me on the phone. I had to text them back like, hey, bro, I can't talk right now.
Right.
I just couldn't do it. And going through all that, so we talked to the surgeon, and this is where I tell people, like, it really made, you've heard me talk about it, it made a perspective change for me in the fire department too. And it wasn't that part of it, it was the actual surgery part. Because what I did realize with the heart surgery, as we were building up to it, and after I processed it, and it took a few days, maybe a week, and I really processed it, like, okay, we just got to get through the heart surgery. I didn't even care about the Down syndrome anymore. Like, I went from that was the end of the world to I can deal with that. Like, it's just going to be different.
Right.
It's not nothing wrong. It's just going to be different than what I thought it was. I can deal with that. I just got to get his heart fixed because I can't bury him. Like, the Down syndrome is not going to kill him as a child. His heart will if I don't get it fixed. So they told us we got to get him to, we're going to push as far as we can, try to get about 5 months. We want him to be at least 10 pounds so he can have the surgery. That's his best, option. I'm like, okay. And we'd have to set alarms, wake him up every 3 hours to feed him to try to get enough, because he was drowning. He's using all the energy that he's bringing in through his bottles. He's burning it off because he's in heart failure. He's drowning, trying to do it. So we had to do all this to try to get him up to weight. They're monitoring him. And she tells us, look, your main two options living in this region are to go to UAB in Birmingham or to go to Emory in Atlanta. And we're like, okay. And we start looking it up, and it's like, I forget the exact numbers, but UAB did it this many times, and Emory just did it a skyrocket amount of times, even more. I mean,
right
it's huge, Atlanta. And so we were like, well, we're going to go to Emory because they do it the most. So if they have that much success on that many occasions, that's where we want to go. And my wife had joined the local Down syndrome society here in the city, and it wasn't really for me. It was for her, where she could talk to other moms and stuff like that. That just wasn't my scene to like talk to other dads. I had to process it my own way. But it was good for her. But what she did is she started talking to these other moms And a lot of them have been through the same thing. They had a child born with Down syndrome, also had a heart defect and needed surgery. So she started talking, and there's one of them who told her that a certain doctor at UAB, Dr. Dable, saved her daughter's life, fixed her heart, and she had a way worse heart condition than my son. And that they basically told her she wasn't going to make it and all this. And he did the surgery, was very honest with her about the odds. And she was like, if he moved across the world and she needed another heart surgery, that's where we would go. We would follow him. And that had like a lasting impact to us. So we were like, you know what? That's where we're going. If we can get him, we're going to him. But it doesn't matter that Emory does it more. We want that guy. He's the number one choice. So we went through the cardiologist, and he agreed to take the case. So now we know who's going to do the surgery. And that's where my mindset comes from with people when I talk about training and the mindset we have towards how we view the fires we go to.
Yeah, I love this.
That's what people go through. Like, everything they care about in the world, they're watching us try to save for them. And they're just praying that we can make a good outcome for them. But the difference is we picked who did it. We picked who did that surgery on my son, and we didn't not get who we want. We have to pick somebody else. We picked the one person in the world we would want to do it, and he took that case.
Right.
So we said, you're number one to us. We wouldn't want anyone else to do it in the world, and that's who did it. These people don't get that. They get whoever just happens to be on duty closest to them. So to me, you always look at everything as if it's your family. Like, if it's my kids, what would I do? That's what I'm going to do for your kids. That's what we're on duty for. You took an oath. And that's where my perspective comes from of what it changed from with that and going through that. But so he takes the case on. They're monitoring him weekly, and he's struggling to gain weight. He's really getting to where he's struggling to eat and things like that. And then he gets to the point he just won't eat anymore. So the cardiologist was like, look, we talked to the surgeon. We want you to rush him up there today. They're going to keep him, for about a week. And if they get his weight up, they're going to do the surgery. But they're going to keep him in the hospital, feed him through a nasal tube until they can do the surgery. So we rush him up there, and this is one of the points we'll talk about talking about this topic is just communication. Like, words really matter when you're dealing with people with certain things. And when you're dealing with someone with a child with special needs, and not just because my son was an infant, he was 3 months old at the time, like, it might be an adult, and their parents have cared for them as a child, basically, their whole life. And if you use certain words and you're not careful with what you say, they're going to get very defensive. It's their world. So, like, when we got there, these are some personal experiences to me where I know words matter. So we get up there, we get to the hospital. They're like, hey, we're going to do the surgery tomorrow. I'm like, okay. And then the doctor comes in. He's like, hey, we got to push your son's surgery back. I'm like, cool, man, I understand. Like, and like, not a problem. They tell us they got, I forget what it was, but they had another child coming in. It was in like car wreck or something like that, or it was something they needed, like life-saving surgery in the time slot they had scheduled my son. We're like, yeah, man, cool, no problem. Like, he's fine. He just needs to eat. Like, right now, that's the biggest thing. The only reason he's rushed up here is he wouldn't eat. You're handling that. And so we get a new surgery date. And they say the surgeon's going to come in and spend about an hour with you the day before and talk to you, walk you through everything. Well, he doesn't come in. The floor cardiologist for that floor, at that hospital, they have one floor. I think it was like the 8th floor, is nothing but a cardiac unit for kids.
Okay.
So that's where we were. And just the cardiologist on duty that day, like, and I come to talk to the surgeon and all that later, like, it was just a mistake in his terminology. Because when the surgeon said it, I was cool. But when this guy said it, like, I was ready to kill him, And he's like, hey, yeah, your son's surgery's pushed back again. And I was like, no, it's not, bro. Like, we're not doing this twice. Like, he's up here, you're gonna fix him. And he said, no, we have a more important case. Well, the important wasn't the word we used.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I'm ready to go across the bed and go after him. And ends up the surgeon comes talk to us, and he explains the situation. Like, hey, we had twins born yesterday, and they won't make it. It's not more important. It's, timely.
More immediate. Yeah.
Until we get the surgery done, it's not more important. And it's like, cool, I got no problem with that. But words matter. You say something like that, like, someone might hit you. You know what I mean? But it does matter in the way you communicate. So the way it goes through, and I go back to that perspective, is so the surgeon goes through it with us. He's real honest. He's like, look, these are the complications that can happen from the surgery. The most likely complication he'll have is I will nick his heartbeat, and then he'll need a pacemaker the rest of his life. He said, because I'm stopping his heart. I don't know, I know where the heartbeat's supposed to be, but with Down syndrome, some things inside the body can kind of get relocated. So I'm not going to cut where the heartbeat's supposed to be, but that might not be where it is. The biggest complication would be if that happens, he has to have a pacemaker the rest of his life. I'm like, okay, I don't want that, but okay, it's not that bad of an option. I'm like, I just got to know what's the odds of what I don't want to happen. And he was like, it's 1%. I was like, okay. but he was honest with me. He said there was a chance, so I feel like I trusted him.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
He gave me that trust. So we go through that night, and probably the toughest night of my life, like leading up to that. You don't want it to happen, but you want to get it over with. You know what I mean? And the way they do it at that hospital is, when it comes time, the nurses come up and get you, and they don't just take your kid from you. They let you walk your kid all the way to the operating room. So my wife carries them. We walk them down to the operating room. Nurses meet us at the little door to the hallway to the operating room, let us, hug them, kiss them goodbye, and they take them. And then we had a 4-hour wait, and you just wait. One thing they did is every 30 minutes, every hour, they would call on the phone into the waiting room you're at and give you an update. So we constantly knew what was going on. Like, okay, they put him under anesthesia. Okay, they've stopped his heart. Now I'm just waiting for the phone call. Like, okay, you can do whatever you got to do. I just need you to say his heart's beating again, And they're doing all this, and in that moment, like, I realized true helplessness. Like, I'm his dad. I'm supposed to make everything better. I'm supposed to prevent anything from happening to him. And I'm in this moment where his life is up in the air. It's on the line, and all I can do is sit here and wait on a phone call. Like, true helplessness. Never felt it in my life. And I had just this like realization, not in that moment, but afterwards, once he was okay, that like when we go to someone's house, that's what they go to. And I would never want to experience it again. I wouldn't want anyone to experience it. And I'm not saying I got it the worst. There's a lot of people got it way worse than I do. You know what I mean? Like,
but
in my head, like a moment I realized that this is what people go through.
Right.
And if you're showing up just collecting a paycheck, you're not coming through for them the way that doctor did for me. And the other thing I realized was, man, I was afraid to walk in that room. Like, they came out, they talked to us, they said he's in ICU. I was afraid to walk in that room and see him because they warned us, like, hey, when you go in there, just know it's bad. Like, it doesn't look good. He's got tubes everywhere. He's on all these monitors, and there's stuff coming out of him everywhere and all this kind of stuff, lines and all this kind of stuff. And to this day, if you ask me and my wife, we both say the same thing. Like, we walked in, I dreaded, I was fearing what I was going to see. But as soon as I walked in the door, it was the best sight I've ever seen. Because as bad as it looked, the weight was off my shoulders. He was alive. That's what I needed to see. I didn't need him to be perfect. And that was another realization for me. Like, it might be bad. They're not hoping you bring somebody out to them perfect. They just want them alive. And that they'll figure out the rest and deal with it, And that's what I went through with him. I just needed him to be alive. I could deal with anything else at that point, but I couldn't deal with burying him. So it really drove some perspective for me. And then, like we talked about before we started, you've taken Todd's class, Breaking Barriers, which is awesome. And I'll get into like how I got involved with that and what that's done for me as well. That Todd's done for me with that. And it gives me a way to, give something back through my experience with it, with my son and all that. Is we talked about communication. Like, that's a big deal. And the other thing is you got to understand, we don't know everything. Like, we get bulk information out of a book. You go through EMT, how long did we really talk about special needs?
Right. No.
A lot of things are generalized and
15,
and
20
great,
minutes
and
in mine.
Works, right. But like with special needs, like some things are different. Like with my son, like things in his body are moved. Like they talked about with the heartbeat. Well, his heartbeat was where it was supposed to be. It didn't cause a problem. But so they have to have a femoral line in his femoral artery because they're monitoring his blood pressure going in and out of his heart and all this kind of stuff. Well, he comes out of the surgery, goes back up to a regular room. Like the next day, babies are drinking a bottle. He does one of them lurches, right, with his chest. Well, where they had cracked his sternum, he cracked it back open. He tore the sutures. So he's screaming, and you can hear his sternum popping, right? So he has to go back and have another surgery to redo it, and he's in the ICU because they didn't have any more rooms left on the cardiac floor. So we spent the week in ICU. They pretty much left us alone because he didn't really need ICU, just needed a room.
Right.
But so they had that femoral line in, but he was so small at the time, it started causing some blood clots. So they tried to treat it. They were going to treat it with some heparin, and his body was like rejecting it. So it was like rejecting it and curing itself on its own. So the surgeon makes the decision because it just keeps kicking it out. Like his body's doing it on its own. We're going to let it fix it. Like his leg is real cold. It's not getting good circulation, but it is getting better. It's curing. So we go through the whole thing. It's like I want to say a Saturday or Sunday night. And they say, hey, we got one more night. He's going home tomorrow. We got a bed open. We're moving you back up to the cardiac floor. You guys can get some sleep. Because we never left the hospital. Like, we didn't go to Ronald McDonald House. We were living here by ourselves. We're from New Jersey, both me and my wife. All our family's in New Jersey. They came down for the surgery, but they couldn't stay me like 8 days later.
Right.
So they had gone back. So, we just weren't going to leave. So we stayed in that hospital room the whole time. They're like, we'll get you up there, even though it's for one night. Like, you won't have constant people coming in and out. You guys can just go. He's leaving in the morning, getting discharged. Everything's great. Cool. So we're getting ready to go up there, and they do their shift change for the surgeon or for the cardiologist in the ICU. And understand when I say that, I'm not knocking that hospital at all. This was one doctor that had made a big mistake, but everybody else in that hospital will stand up and save my kid's life. So this isn't to knock them. It was one person. But so this new surgeon comes in. She feels it's cool, and she says, hey, this isn't right. And the surgeon's like, there's a nurse that's been taking care of him. Is like, no, you don't understand. This is way, way improved from what it was a couple days ago. This is getting better. And she's like, well, I can't feel his pulse in his foot and all this. And I was like, look, I didn't know this until we got here, but his where you feel his pulse is moved in his foot. It's more on the side of his foot than usual. And the nurse tells her the same thing. And she's like, well, I'm the doctor. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of getting mad, but I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. And she says, well, we're going to treat him. We're going to treat it for blood clots with heparin. I was like, well, hold on. We're not doing that. Try to step up as his dad. I'm like, we're not doing that. The surgeon I came here for this hospital to treat him took him off of it. We're not doing that. Plus, he can't go home on heparin. Heparin's got to be monitored. You want to treat with Lovenox? Like, cool, we'll handle that. But we're not going home on heparin. He goes home tomorrow. And she was like, no, I'm the doctor. This is what we're going to do, blah, blah, blah. And I hit that moment where I failed because I'm supposed to take care of him. And what I do is I got mad and said, all right, whatever. And I said, but does he still go home tomorrow? Oh, yeah, he goes home tomorrow. Okay. And so they move him upstairs. They start treating him with it. And so she made two mistakes. The first one was there. Didn't listen to the parent or caregiver, right? But she moves him upstairs. She makes a mistake in the prescription for the heparin. So they come in. He's got central lines in his neck. They give him his heparin, all that, and they're going to monitor it every 2 hours to make sure the heparin levels in his blood, not to cause any bleeds or anything like that. So we're sitting there. We wake up. They come in to draw blood. He's got real bad veins, so they're struggling to get blood. He's screaming, wakes us up. And they finally get it. 30 minutes maybe goes by. They come back. They're drawing blood again. I'm like, hey, what the hell? You said 2 hours. Like, why you bothering my kid again, And they're like, we got a bad draw. It was all heparin. It didn't even have blood in it. Okay. I'm half asleep. Like, okay, I trust you. So they do that again. Another 30 minutes goes by. They come running back, and they're shutting machines off. They're shutting the IV pumps off. Here she made a mistake on the prescription, and she gave a 3-month-old an adult dose of heparin.
Wow.
So now we had to stay in the hospital an extra day because they wanted to make sure he didn't have a brain bleed, anything like that. And, it got handled. Like, they made a lot of safety things that it can never happen again. Everyone at the hospital came and apologized. But, like, all of that could have been avoided by listening to the caregiver who was telling you, this doctor did this, they found this. If she'd listened to that instead of the book, I know this. Well, I know this. I'm with him every day. I've been here every day with him since the surgery, talking to these doctors and nurses. She didn't listen to the other nurse. So what that means for us, and understand, that book's giving you a generalization, but nothing can replace what that parent or caregiver has, because they're there every day. They know literally everything about that person. And that person isn't a book. They are an individual. Just like us, they're an individual. There's different things about them, and that person can give you that. And it might be very simple. I do these posts once a month about little tips with the special needs stuff. And one of them, I did it on stemming. My son takes a jump rope and spins it between his fingers like this when he's just overstimulated, and it calms him down. We get in a car wreck, me and my wife are unconscious. He's never, ever going to calm down enough for you to get near him unless you give him that jump rope. So if you spot things like that, right? Or if someone tells you, hey, give him that jump rope.
Right.
Don't take it from him. Let him have it.
And when you're talking about listening to the caregiver, you're talking specifically about special needs, because they spend so much time specifically with them.
Right, and that goes for anybody, but definitely with special needs, where those generalizations just aren't necessarily as true all the time.
Right.
But
okay.
Especially say you get an adult with Down syndrome. Their parents might have been taken care of them. They're 50 years old, but they've been taking care of them the way you take care of a child for 50 years.
Right.
So what they can offer you, they know everything there is. I promise you that. There's nothing about how to take care of that kid or make that person better that they don't know better than you do. So listen to them. And my captain at the time when I was going through all this, he was a big part of the state of Alabama's EMS board and all that kind of stuff. And he had always told us, when it comes to special needs, you never never disregard something a caregiver tells you. There's just stuff they know that you don't, because they have to be so involved. And that kind of hit me with that, like, man, I knew better. Like, this guy's been telling me this. I drive for him. He's my captain. And it kind of just changed my mindset. And then, like with the Breaking Barriers program that Todd did, so this was a few years after the surgery and all, and I've known Todd, and we started getting closer and everything. And he sends me, he's like, hey, man, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to create this program. And if you haven't heard about it, like, you need to look into this program, because it's not people that just, like, read about a topic and they want to tell you about it because they made a run on somebody with special needs. Like, everybody involved, this is their life. They have somebody with Down syndrome or autism, or like myself, he has both Down syndrome and autism. Like, this is our life. Like, we deal with it every day. And we're also on the fire department side, so we get both sides. But Todd's like, man, I'm thinking about doing this program. And I was like, man, I live it every day. I never thought about the fact, like, before he was born, I was ignorant to this.
Oh yeah,
like,
100%.
I didn't even recognize the need for it, because I'm just, like, caught up in the fact that when I go home from the fire station, like, this is my life. And I'm like, man, that's a good idea. And so he's like, but my experience is more on the autism side. And I was like, okay. He said, I'm going to email you my idea for the Down syndrome side, because you have both sides, and I want you to tell me what you think before I go teach it. And right out the gate, I'm like, that's pretty stand up. Like, you know, you want to make sure from different people that experience that side of it more, like, hey, this is on point. This is what I need to say. Or, hey, don't worry about this. It's not that. This part isn't as big of a deal when you're dealing with it every day. So I was like, man, that's going to end up being a big program. And then for him to bring me in, now I'm a little bit more a part of it. It gives me kind of an out of, I'm giving back to what I went through. Like, the fire department got me through that. There ain't no way around that. The fire department got me through what we went through with him, because I didn't have anybody here but my wife. We both moved from New Jersey. My family was in New Jersey still. My in-laws were in New Jersey still. Her job worked around us. He couldn't be in daycare because something like RSV would be so bad for him. So it was basically tapping out in the mornings. I got off from the firehouse, came home. We passed in the doorway. I took over taking care of him. She went to work. If I was off of work, she was working. If she was off of work, I was at the firehouse. So to get through it was the firehouse. It gave me a few things. One, when I was at the firehouse, like, I was able to mentally detach and rest. Like, I couldn't focus on that and still do what I needed to do. So I was able to mentally kind of reset, go back and deal with the next 2 days. But just the brotherhood, man, of people constantly like, what can we do to help you? People call me like, hey, when he gets called up for that surgery, man, I got your time. I'm going to work for you. You're not paying me back. Like, I don't want you to work for me. You just go take care of your kids. And you saw a different, you saw that brotherhood come out, and that stuff got me through it. So now it's like, with Todd's program and him letting me be a part of it, like, it gives me that out to give information on this fact that, especially locally, like, man, you could run on my kid. Like, I want you to know better, and that's really come full circle. Like, we've got Todd to come down and do it a few times. He came down and did it in Fairhope, which is like 45 minutes from here a few years ago. And then last year, right after H-Rock, he drove over, and like 2 days later, we did it here as a charity benefit for a local special needs home that the fire department union. We take all the residents Christmas shopping every year. So we did this as a fundraiser to raise money for the actual home for supplies. Nice. And our fire chief decided to come and sit through the Breaking Barriers part and Todd's class, because we each he did 2 classes, I did 1. And he sat through that in the morning. His office is in my firehouse, and because we're downtown. And like a week later, he's like, hey, man, what do I got to do to get him to come down here and do that for the whole fire department? So Todd's actually coming and doing our 4th quarter. Every quarter we have like mandatory training. Every member of the department has to get this topic. And it's not like, hey, every company's got to train on this. Like, everybody has to come to the training center for this specific training across the board. And the department is bringing Todd in to do all 500 members disabilities awareness. So like, that's come full circle for me, where like all these guys, like, I know them, but like we don't work overtime like we used to. I don't know everybody like I used to. 500 people, all of them could run on my kid. And now I know all of them are going to have proper training to better communicate or interact.
Sure. No, absolutely.
So it's really come full circle with that. But like we talked about, the communication, man, you've got to be able to communicate. And to do that, really and truly, you've got to be able to identify it. Down syndrome to me is really easy to identify, probably way more easier than it used to be, but way more easy to identify than autism, because it's got physical traits.
Right.
You see, if you look at my son, you're going to see there's no nasal bridge right here. He's only got the bottom of the nose. It's all flat right here. His eyelids right here, they're kind of opposite of yours. Real small ears, short stubby fingers. If you can see their feet, a lot of times there's a gap between their big toe and their second toe. It looks like they're wearing a pair of sandals when they're not. Little physical things can cue you in real quick and recognize it. Autism, you're going to have to recognize, behaviors, twitches, things like that. Like my son, you go sit next to him, he's probably going to get up and sit and move away from you. He doesn't want to sit right next to you. He's going to be stemming, doing things like this. But you got to be able to recognize it first. But the way you communicate, and we talked about, like, that was one of the biggest takeaways you had from Todd's class is communication. So I'll give you actual personal stories with it. All my guys have had Todd's class multiple times.
I'm gonna fill in the audience real quick. He keeps freezing on my side, I think. So I keep you guys see it flicker and go back. That's me unfreezing him. So just so you know what's going on, I wanted to tell you I'm doing that so that he keeps moving, because when he freezes, I undo it. So anyway, I wanted to let you know. The other thing is, if you have questions about any of this, please, please, please send them in the comments so I can throw them to Anthony. Now go with your story. Sorry to interrupt.
So like all my guys, man, I'm lucky with people I work with. They're all into the job, go to training everywhere, come to work, want to train. And they've really taken this one head on. Like, they want to know about this. So every time Todd comes around, like, if he's teaching breaking barriers, they're all there. So we make a run on I want to say 53-year-old female, has Down syndrome, right? It comes in as one choking. How many times we go to that? BS. So we pull up. The dad's in the yard just sitting there like nothing's going on, just waves us down. We come in. And instead of going, it was us and the ambulance. So in our department, if you get one of our ambulances, 2 paramedics. Our ambulances are all ALS. We use a private service for DLS. So we go with our ambulance. They're there. I'm like, all right, they got plenty of people to help them get their stuff. I'll just walk inside. That's always like the first mistake. Straight shit magnet. I'm by myself, And so I walk inside, and he's acting like nonchalant. Nothing's going on. When we get about to turn the corner into the kitchen, mom's in the kitchen screaming, "Save my baby." I'm like, whoa, this just escalated, And when I make the corner, mom's sitting on the floor, 53-year-old female on the floor, laying in her lap, unconscious. She had choked on a piece of pizza. So we get in there, we start the Heimlich, all this. We get the food out, and she starts coming back. Comes back to where she's talking to people. Now, it's like a tendency because her vocabulary isn't what you expect of a 53-year-old, So what did people do? Baby talk, man. And I tell people, you're going to be uncomfortable. Just accept that. If you're not around special needs all the time, it's going to make you uncomfortable.
Right.
In my opinion, especially adults, because a child is still like, it's just a kid. But when it's an adult and they're mentally not an adult, it kind of makes you uncomfortable. Just accept you're going to be. And don't get uncomfortable and back down. Accept you're going to be uncomfortable. You know that right now. Let's just deal with it. So we start getting around. She's talking to me. She's holding my hand. And as it went through, and most of the people, we had a few detail people, but most of the people there had been through the class, all that. They baby talk. They talk to her like she's a little kid. And she'd stick her tongue out them, make noises, shake her head, and turn away. And for the rest of the call, if they spoke to her, she wouldn't even look at them. She didn't acknowledge they existed. The only person she would talk to was me. And it wasn't that I'm better, I know how to communicate better. It's just I do it every day.
Right.
So we get back from the class, and you met the guy. He was at this class in Texas with me. He gets back. He's like, "Captain Rowe, man, I screwed up." And I'm like, "Man, what? Everything's good. We're good." No, I baby talked her, and I knew better. I'm like, "No, bro, you're good. It's going to happen." Well, a few months later go by. We run on her again. Same thing. This time the family had got the food out. So she's starting to come around when we get in there, but she's not at that point like she was the first time. And everybody on scene now, we talked about at the station after that, we got to do this. And everyone talked to her just straight up. She's 53 years old. Maybe different terminology, but no baby talking. They talked to her like a 53-year-old woman. She spoke to everybody on scene. She didn't fight getting an ambulance. She walked to it, sat on a stretcher, and said, "Let's go." So communication really makes a big difference. But also not just with that person, again, with the parents,
the family,
caregivers.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, her family has been raising her the way you raise a child for 53 years. So the other thing that happened on the first call is when she starts coming to, we're talking, and we're focused on her, and we got the parents right behind us. We're like, "Hey, what's her medical history?" She's like, "Okay, she's got Down syndrome, this, and we're like, "Okay, no problem." And we moved on. And I don't know if it was someone's inflection in their voice, something on their face, or it was just the fact that we were all comfortable with it because my kids come by the Firehouse and stuff like this. Down syndrome's not a big deal. That we moved past it. but something triggered in her head to where she yells at us, "My daughter's mentally retarded." And like right there, I knew like parents don't use that word. Okay, like this isn't, it's not a medical term anymore. Like that doesn't get used. A parent's not going to say that word about their kids. So I'm like, man, something happened here. Now my back was to it, so I don't know truly what caused it. But the way you interact with the parent is going to be a big deal too. Like for her to get to that point, something triggered it. You know,
something happened. Yeah.
And you want to make sure those parents feel like everything's being done, because a lot of times, man, they just don't feel like their kid's going to get that fair shake. Like it just is what it is. You've been to Todd's class. It is a discriminated against group, just in a different way than people typically think when you hear the word discrimination.
Well, no, and as a parent, you've been taking care of them so long, and there has to be some element of, if I'm not in charge of taking care of this, they're not going to get it as good as they need it.
Yeah. You know? Oh yeah. But yeah, he's actually trying to walk in right now.
That's fair. He can say hi.
Yeah. No, he walked out.
Okay.
Yeah, just understand you're having a big impact on those parents too. Like the way you communicate with them is really going to make or break this for them, because they feel really helpless. And remember too, there's all sorts of stuff with this. The way they feel pain, and it's not that they don't feel pain with Down syndrome. And this is going to be my post this weekend for my monthly thing.
Okay.
It's that they don't react to it as fast a lot. So yeah, they're hurt. They're just not showing it to you. So if you see something and you're like, hey man, it looks like that kid could be hurt, or their parents telling you like, hey, they need some to be seen. They need some pain medicine. They need to like take the parent's word at it, because it may be days before they ever tell you, they're actually hurt, broken leg. And if you take Todd's class, he'll tell you that case study, like broken leg for days before they say something. Like it's not that they're not hurt. They have a delayed response to it. And so anything, parents telling you, like they know them. If they're telling you they're hurt, you probably need to listen to that, even though this person's not showing you any signs. The parents know, the caregivers know. So really pay attention to what the caregivers can offer you. One thing we do is, especially if you're old enough, especially an adult, like I'm not going to, just because, hey, they got Down syndrome, like you're not worthy to tell me what medical history you have or what's going on. We're going to have somebody talking to you the way we would if I was treating you. And we're going to talk to you, and we're going to have somebody else talk to the parent.
Okay.
But it's not going to be right in front of you. I don't want the parent, that person to hear us asking the parents the same questions. The same answers. So we kind of get them to the back of the room or out in the hallway maybe, but we try to get it to where the parents can still see their child. So they still see them, they still feel in control, but they're able to give us that, no, that's not right, or yes, that's right, but there's more to it here. You need to know this, and this. But the person we're treating, that individual, feels like they're treated with respect as an individual. They're not hearing us say, hey, what medical history you have? Oh, I have this, and this. Hey, is that right?
Right.
Like,
no, there's not
really
double.
It comes down to communication,
This is solid, man. Solid. I think that I have one question coming at you here. Marco Rodriguez asks, is there a website for more EMS knowledge on this topic? Do you know of any good resources?
As far as just strictly EMS knowledge, man, I honestly don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, the biggest resource I know out there for it is Todd's program. And that's not truly EMS as far, because it's not like the treatment stuff. How you treat something is still going to be the same. You know what I mean? But you got to recognize it. You got to recognize that they have autism, they have Down syndrome, and really the biggest problem we're going to have is interaction. How you're going to communicate with them, how you're going to get them to trust you, and because then after that, for the most part, things are going to be the same. Like there are some medical things like Down syndrome, they can metabolize some medicines in their body differently than you, and kind of just you give them a normal dose for their size body, and they kick it out. Like it's just not going to do nothing for them. And there is situations like that, but 90% of the stuff, in my opinion, or my experience and things we've gone through with my son, or talking to other people, it comes down to that communication, or really recognizing what you're dealing with. Because then at that point, you're still treating a medical issue. That part hasn't truly changed. It's how you get them to let you.
Right.
How you get them to let you get them in the ambulance, let you take their blood pressure. How you develop that trust with somebody. Because if you break that communication barrier with them, it's never going to happen. Like that woman I'm talking about, I mean, she would not talk to anybody. She didn't believe he existed anymore.
Right.
She was done with me. Like she felt disrespected, and it was over. You know, she didn't want nothing to do with you. But the next time we ran on her, different communication, she literally walked to the ambulance and climbed in for him and was good to go.
Completely
For the
different
first
result.
time, like she was fighting tooth and nail to not get in that ambulance, and everything changed. The only thing different was the way people communicate.
Awesome, man. So there, I mean, just if you get nothing else out of the scrap than that, man, then it's worth it. But Smoothbore Cartel, one of my favorite people in the world, Kyle Romagus, is asking, let me unfreeze you. He said, Anthony, how many bags of gummy bears did you eat today?
About a half a bag of gummy bears, and I tried a new candy, and I know my boy Rico's listening, so I tried his. The purple bag of Skittles gummies is on point. I will give him that. He was right on that. So I tried something new with that. I didn't really do the gummy bears. I went with something new.
All right. Fair enough.
It's bad when that's what you're known for, right? Chocolate chip cookies, gummy bears, when you're known for that, it's probably not a good thing.
There's a lot worse things to be known for.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll give you that.
So another thing that you're passionate about that I want to ask you about is mentors and mentoring.
Okay. So to me, I really believe that what you become, especially like in the fire department, the way you're going to be a leader, you become a culmination of the people that have led you. Like that's how you learn. We learn through experiences. We learn through what people taught us. So the way you mentor somebody is really going to last a long time because it's going to mold them and it's going to mold the people they then lead. So you really have a big impact. So when you take that position, and whether it's being a senior man, whether it's being an officer, when you take that responsibility on and you're bringing somebody up, like understand the impact you're going to have. You're not just impacting them, you're impacting a lot of people, and you're really going to impact their career because as they promote up or they become a senior man, they're going to be molded by people, and that's what they know. That's what they see is, you know, if you mold somebody up and they're training all the time and they're really into the job, like that's what they're going to pass on because that's what they believe, and they believe that's the way. So when I came on, I went to a station. We had a good crew, but there was one guy I wanted to work for. You know, so the way my job worked at the time, we don't do it anymore. Was even in the training center, you were a 56-hour employee. So you did 40 hours at the training center every week, and every weekend, either on a Friday night or a Saturday, it rotated. You know, you had a Friday or a Saturday, it rotated each week. You did a 16-hour rotation in the field. You get assigned to an engine, and you go ride with them for 16 hours. And you learned it was good. You learned your place in the firehouse before you even got assigned. Wow. It also gave crews opportunity to work with you and pick who they wanted. You know, they saw who the rock stars were and who the shitbags were. But so I'm working, you know, I grew up in New Jersey. Everyone knows where I probably wanted to be a fireman at then, you know, so it just didn't work out. Like I took the test, came out pretty good on it, I thought, and then that's the list I got thrown out in court and they weren't going to hire for 4 years. The buddy I grew up with, he was going to take the test down here. His uncle was on the job and he was like, hey man, go take the test with me. All right. So that's how I ended up here. But so like I'm doing a rotation on engine 3 downtown, high rise district of the city. Like, okay, let's check this out, you know. And I work for this guy, and if there's a person in my life that's had an impact on my career, no one can top with the impact this guy had. So we ride, we make a bunch of runs that night, and we stay up talking. We're talking fire and all this, and he loves the job, into the job, eats, breathes, sleeps the Mobile Fire Department. And so we get to talking. He's like, man, I might try to get you down here. Keep doing good in the training center, and we'll see in a few weeks. We'll work it out. All right. So I'm like, man, this guy wants me. I'm doing a good job, you know. So I go to the training center. I keep working. Like, man, I might get to go to Engine 3. Like a guy that I've heard his reputation at the training center, but all I'm hearing is he trains all the time. Like, go get it, fireman trains all the time. So I'm like, man, this guy's gonna come get me. So get to where we get our assignment. Don't get Engine 3, and it turns out he did request me, but there was some stuff going on with a favor, and he got somebody else for a little while. And then that didn't work out, and I'm at 14, and he's calling me, and he's like, hey, man, I got a spot. You want to come? And at first I was like, man, I don't know, man. I'm here. We all are a busy company. Like, we go to a lot of fires. Ratio is good in this house.
Right on.
This is one of the better houses on the ratio side in the city as far as fire EMS. So pretty happy where I'm at, having a good time. Love the guys I'm working with. And he calls again a few months later, and he's like, hey, I'm not holding it anymore. You got to make a decision. Do you want it, or I'm going to look somewhere else? So I go home. I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, you know what? That's what I want to do. High-rise stuff. Dude trains every single day. That's what he's known for. Hose on the ground every day. I'm 20 years old. I'm like, yeah, I'm going. So I put the transfer in. I go down there with him. Best decision I ever made in my life. And that's not the guys I was with. One of the biggest mentors I'll talk about after this was at that station. But what that man did for me once I moved down there, trained every day, man, he poured every bit of energy he had into me. If you wanted to be into the job and you wanted to learn, you had every bit of energy in his body every day. And so he taught me that. But one thing he always taught me is he was like, you know, when the day comes and you promote, this is my philosophy. This is what I was taught. We might not be doing the same task at a fire, so it might not always be easy to judge, but my job is going to be to outwork you, and your job needs to be to outwork you. So we might not do the same thing, but in what I'm doing, I'm going to outwork you. And you need to be trying to outwork me. I've kind of carried that with me every day.
Nice.
And the other thing he told me is he was like, man, no matter what, I have to come in every day the same. It doesn't matter what's going on in my life. When I come through those doors as the boss, I have to be the same person every single day.
Nice.
To you guys. I'm like, okay, yeah. So all these are going in my head, right? And I'm like, okay, one day I'm gonna be captain. I want to be captain on Engine 3 like him and all this. Well, then the city hits that financial wall. The city announces they're $30 million in the hole, and we're gonna do layoffs, pay cuts, all this kind of stuff. So we're sitting there. I know the class behind me, which is the other firefighter on the back step with us. We know his class. They're saying the whole class will get laid off. And then we don't know. My class is up in the air. Half of us might get laid off. All of us might get laid off. We don't know. And so everyone, man, morale's down. Morale in the department was already down. Like, we're 5 years without a pay raise or something like that. And that's been going on since before I'd even come on. And so everyone's down. We're like, man, we got 2 guys out of 5. We'd have 5 assigned, ride 4, sometimes ride 5 at the time. And, man, we're down. Like, 2 of us might not have a job in a month. And he was like, look, get on the truck, let's ride. And that's all you'd hear over the PA in the system when you want to do something. Engine 3, let's take a ride. And that was, don't stop at the bathroom, get on the truck, go.
Let's go.
We get on the truck, and we go out to where we would train. There's a set of housing projects we were first into that had flooded real bad in Katrina, and they only rebuilt like a third of it. So the rest is just this vacant open field. So we would go train there all the time. There's hydrants everywhere. Nothing. I mean, we could do whatever we wanted. And then there were some buildings around there that we could train on, big vacant area on the outskirts of that. So we had a lot of buildings we could do stuff with, a lot of hose stretch stuff we could do. And that was like our spot. We would go there. That was our Zen moment, you know. And he takes us over there, and we're like, all right, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And he's like, look, let's go sit on the bumper. We got the bumper. And we were like, okay. Like, that's not him just
right.
hear him talk.
Right.
And he's like, look, guys, I've let it go long enough. It's been a couple weeks. Attitude's got to change. And we're like, man, we're just down. We might not have a job. And he was like, yeah, well, no one in this neighborhood cares. When you come through the door, they don't care that the city might lay you off in a month. Because if they have a fire today, they still expect the same thing. And like that really like hit me like, okay, when we go somewhere, it doesn't matter what's going on. You still got to be that same person. And it really changes the whole crew, especially me and the other guy that our jobs are on the line. Like, okay, man, we can worry about that at home, but when we're at work, the politics of the city, they don't really mean shit to us. We're going to do what we always do. We're going to come in and train. We're going to do our thing. And but what I also took from it, and now being a captain and in that company on that shift, so like when he retired, I got his spot. So that was another like cool thing for me. But is I do the same thing when stuff's going on, morale's down in the station, or you know engine truck bickering against each other and all that kind of stuff in the house. Get out of the firehouse. We do the same thing. Get that bond together. We're gonna get on the engine, just us. We're gonna go somewhere and we're gonna go train. We're gonna do what we do.
Nice.
Do what we enjoy doing and reset the mood.
Like stretch therapy, hose therapy. Is there a good word for it?
Well, and I'll tell you what he called it was team building. And
that's good.
What I always realized with him, because a lot of people would say he would punish people with training, but if you worked with him, you knew he didn't. We were going to train every day. We knew that. Like when we came in, we were going to do something every single day. It didn't matter. So they would always say, "Oh, they put Engine 3. They put hose butts on the ground every day." It wasn't that we did that, but we did something every day. But if you weren't getting along very well in the crew, you know there was a little issue going on. We're about 2 miles from our training center, so we go to the training center, and you're going to move some 2.5. And at first, I was like, man, they're not lying. This dude's killing us. He's got us flowing 2.5 through this 4-story building, like. But what I realized is, and I started watching him as I got a little older, was it wasn't punishment. It was we were making all those problems we had with each other go away.
Right.
We were building that team because we had to work together to get that common goal. And I started realizing when that would happen, if by the time we got back in the truck, whatever the problem was, it was gone. Like, we'd achieved something together. We had worked hard together, and we were a little bit too tired to deal with whatever we were mad at.
Whatever bullshit was in the way.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. But like him, man, he really made me realize, though, the good mentors in the fire department, they're not the ones that care about the fire department part of it either. Like, he wanted me to be better as a fireman, but he wanted me to be better as a person. You know, he cared about the other side too. Like, my family was still in New Jersey. My in-laws were still in New Jersey. When we got married, like, we had him sit by my parents because I had promoted out. I was in another station and all that. But he was still extremely close to me, almost like at that point, it become like a second father to me. Like, all the time, I know his wife and all this. My wife is very close to his family, all this kind of stuff. And to this day, he's been retired probably 5 years now. If I got a question like personal or fire department, like, I'm going to call him and ask him. And he's going to take the time, you know, to give me his thoughts. So I think you want to be a good mentor, you have to care about the person more than just them being a good fireman. Because what that does, it also means you're not there for personal gain. You're not putting time into them for personal gain. Like, if I make this guy look good, he makes me look good as a boss. Like, if that's your goal, you're doing it wrong. You're caring about the wrong thing. So care about them to make them better. And one thing I've realized being in that position as a company officer is, man, I used to think, like, I up until a few years ago, I'd still tell you, like, the best job on the fire department. That's novel, man. Like, you're the closest to the fire. You're the one putting it out. You got all the work. You're where it's at. And now I'm like, man, when you get a young guy and you see him put all the work in, he's put hour after hour after hour in, and you see him come out after that one you had a tough time going down the hallway, and you come out successful, and all that work is paid off, and that realization in their face, that's like the best moment. You know, you realize because you were able to put that work in and see them take it and do their own and put the work in on their own, plus what you're telling them, and see it come through, you know. But also find mentors outside of your job. Get outside of your little box. So if you see, you can go to my job, man, and we got some stand-up dudes. A lot of them are on the same shift, and they are in surrounding firehouses, but they're all going to retire soon. You go to my fire department, and you ask, you're going to hear the same certain names every time. Captain Bruce Island, Captain Bubba Vaucher, Captain Mike Smith. Like, everyone's going to say these same guys. Like, we know these are the guys that 30 years from now, they've been gone 25, 30 years, people are still going to be talking about it. Like, they just got that about them. And I've been lucky to work with one of them a lot. He's always been he's been a captain in my firehouse since I hired on. And I've been there as a firefighter, driver, and a captain. He's the only shift I didn't work on, but I've been his relief for 6 years. So he went from a guy that he's real loud, and when I first came on, you know, I thought he was just being an asshole, you know. But what I came to realize was he had a set standard. He had a set standard, and he was never going to let you violate that standard of what he does. And he wasn't going to worry about your feelings in telling you to get better. He was just going to be blunt. So it wasn't that he was being an ass. He was just going to hold you to a standard, and he wasn't worried about if he was blunt about it and you didn't like it. If you didn't want to be to his level, he didn't really care to have you, you know. And came to realize that. Now he's a good mentor of mine. But you go around my job, there's plenty of guys you can learn from. But with today's world, with conferences, stuff like this, like, you've got opportunities to learn from other people, learn from other experiences. Your department may have new stuff. Like, certain types of building construction may not be normal to what you've always done in your department, but now they're building it. Well, there's guys that have been doing it for 20, 30 years, and you can learn from them and take from them. So I got as many, if not more, mentors that really have molded me that are not a part of the Mobile Fire Department as I do that are here. Obviously, the 850 guys, I mean, I'm so close to that area of Florida. Kurt Isaacson, Shannon Stone, DJ Stone, all those guys, like, they've been there for me. The biggest mentor I've got outside the Mobile Fire Department is obviously Todd Edwards. I mean, I do a lot with him. We're real close friends. If I don't talk to Todd a couple times a week, like, probably something wrong, you know. But again, it's the same thing. Todd's not just there to answer a question I have on the fire department.
Right.
He cares about everything. He cares about the family. He cares about my kids, and he wants to help you in everything. Steve Robertson's the same way out of Columbus, Ohio. Man, his engine class is top notch. He doesn't only talk to me about, hey, man, when you're doing this on an engine, or hey, when you're teaching, you need to worry about this, or worry about what he worries about when he talks to me is like, hey, man, don't let this get in the way of your time with your kids. That's his focus. Like, it's not just about the fire department. It's not just about the conferences. It's about something bigger. You know, he focuses on the whole thing. Man, I've got I've got to be friends with guys from New York City that I heard about growing up, the Ray McCormack, Mike Champos, Bob Morris, all these guys, and see them places and talk to them, and they take the time to talk to me and teach me about the stuff that they do. You know, you're sitting there talking to Bob Morris at FDIC a couple weeks ago, or at H-Rock up in the room, and he's talking to me about hose line stuff. And I'm like, man, this is the rescue guy, you know? He's bragging to me about the engine he spec'd out for Stanford and all this kind of stuff. So, and then you got like the guys from Texas and Howard and Kyle and Mo and Clyde, and man, it's just like, it's awesome people that I have this ability to reach out to for this vast experience knowledge, because we go into some of our really old apartment tenement style buildings. Man, there ain't a better person to ask a question to than Ray McCormack or Mike Champa or Bob Moore. And you go into kind of the normal southern buildings. Todd in Atlanta, it's us but bigger. You know, shiplap buildings. Houston. Our operating guidelines for high rise, we just redid it. We modeled a lot of it after Houston. So having guys like Kevin Story and Clyde and Mo Davis, these guys, man, they're just awesome resources. But all of them are just such good people, because they care not just to help you be a better fireman. They really care about who you are as a person, about helping you in anything you ask them. I mean, Clyde and Mo are probably the nicest people I've ever met in my life. You know,
there's no doubt about it.
Absolutely love the fire department. When I heard Mo Davis tell me, like, yeah, man, when I swapped time, like, you didn't have to pay me back if I was on your shift working for you and I made a fire, because I got to go to the fire. I was like, wait a minute, that math isn't adding up. And he's like, no, man, I won. I got to go to a fire.
Right on.
And I was like, okay, I like this guy. And then, like, you know, Howard, we're more the same age, and he's just at a different level in a fire department, being the fire chief of a different type of environment, you know, a smaller department, all this, where when I run into things and it's like trying to understand administration, because I'm dealing with the politics of the city, or the administration's doing this, and I'm thinking like, man, why aren't they just fixing this yet? Like, fix the problem. And Howard's like, man, I used to think like that too, but once you get in those shoes, you see there's more to it. And you can't just fix it. So
no, absolutely.
He walks me through stuff too. So, man, by getting outside of Mobile, I really was able to expand that mentor group I have that spent the time and putting their effort into me and taught me ways to where I try to do the same thing for the people I'm trying to, you know, bring up and do what guys did for me. And if you want to go do something, like, man, let's go do it. We're going to train every day, but if you want to work on something, let's go do it. And then when you see that come full circle, you know, and we do some things a little different just within our crew to try to build, you know, that brotherhood in the station, because we don't have a lot of ranks. So we have a firefighter, driver, captain, and then after that, you're a chief. So what we do is we try to do it within our company, is build a few more steps of respect, like you've earned something within the company.
Nice.
So when you come in, like, if you wear a badge with a 3 on it, you didn't buy it. That was given to you by the members.
Nice.
So like, my badge is that guy I was talking about. That was my captain. I wear his badge. He gave it to me when he left, and we kind of carried that through. So you got to be in the company at least 2 years, and you have to have earned the respect of the members that wear those 3 badges. If they got a 3 on their chest, they get a say in it. And you've been there at least 2 years, so you've shown you're not just going to leave because we're one of the busier companies in the city. Don't sleep a lot. You know what I mean? And we're going to put the time in training. Like, we're not going to go sitting 10 toes up watching TV every day. So if you don't want to do the kind of work for 2 years, you're probably not going to get one of those badges. So you've been there 2 years. You've made some good fires, and you've earned the respect of the guys in the company. They're going to go buy you that badge and give it to you. But they're also going to tell you, hey, man, we bought it, so we own it. So if you don't continue to hold up to that standard that got you this, we are going to take it back from you. And it builds like man, you get that level. Like, you may not have promoted, but okay, man, these guys bought me a badge. Like, they respect me. They put my name on a badge out of their pocket with the 3 on it. Like, other companies don't do it. You might see companies with a badge with their number on it, but we're the ones that do that. And that doesn't make us special. It's just something we do within that's kind of been passed down. But it builds that up, and so guys get to working for it. And so you start seeing that mentality come. People they transfer into the company. So we got one guy, you met him in Texas. He wanted to come to us out of the training center, right? He had worked in another department. He wanted to come to outliner of us, real small department. Came to the city, and he's like, for his smaller department, he had went through our training center. And we were like, man, this kid, man, he tries hard. Like, man, if you ever decide to come Mobile, you call him. And so he goes to the training center, and we're like, all right. And we try to get him. It just doesn't work out. They send him out to the other side of the city. And he just wants to come downtown. He wants to come downtown. He wants to come downtown. And so he gets there, and now his first experience on the fire department, it's not that they don't train, but they're not going to do it every single day. You know what I mean? Now he comes down there with us, and we're hammering him because we're going to go out and do it every day. August is hot, 100 degrees. We're still going to go do something. You know, we might not kill you, you know, because we're not trying to make it to where we can't operate or we just drained you, but we do want to gain some sort of tactical advantage ability-wise every day. So we're going out doing stuff. And like I said, the fire chief's office is in our firehouse. It's a full city block long. Half of it's the firehouse, half of it's the museum, all the admin offices, all that. And the fire chief is now retired. He used to be stationed with the captain on the ladder truck on our shift. And so he comes down, he's talking to us, and we're in the we were in the dorm, which also has our gym. So we're in there working out, and he's like, it's just me and another captain. We're talking. He's like, man, where are your guys at? Man, I don't know. And the fire chief was like, oh, they got the hose hooked up to the hydrant across the street. They're over there flowing water. I was like, all right, well, I'll see y'all later. Let me go over there and talk to them, you know. And he was like, no. And he taught me that lesson. Like, no, sometimes you got to let them be them. They're working with the younger guy. Let them be them. You're not there overlooking. He's more comfortable. So I start seeing that. And I start seeing, and now in my mind, like I started building that in, is when I wasn't around, the more senior guys in the company,
they start stepping up.
We saw this. He's doing really good at this, but he needs to work on this. Let's go. When he's not around, so he's more comfortable, let's go put the time in. And so now that's how we operate is like, yes, I'm responsible for everybody as the captain. And the driver, then it all works down. But I want to make sure I'm preparing that driver to take my spot.
Right.
The driver's really trying to make sure our senior private's prepared to take his spot. And he works on the middle private to make sure he's ready to take his spot. And he works with the most junior. So everyone's always got somebody. It's like building that little mentorship where you're always getting prepared in how to lead people, how to deal with people. And so you're prepared when you get into that role, and you are responsible for training people. You've got some experience with it and how to talk to somebody or deal with their personalities, different personalities. That was a hard thing for me to learn to deal with different personalities.
Sure.
I was used to type A, very aggressive personalities. That
actions and doers, yeah.
But they were the guys like, you still hear me? I think
yeah.
Just died. Okay, one headset died, and my wife's pink headset. We might have to switch to my other one.
Okay.
And you're building that up, and so you're watching them grow. You're seeing all this, but you're seeing like as they're doing that, they're getting so much more prepared, and they're starting to do better. But like I said, where I learned in that is I started seeing other people being able to deal with different personalities in the crew. When we started getting people that didn't necessarily want to be there, they didn't want to be in a busy company, they didn't want to train, and I couldn't deal with it because I'd never had to. I'd always been blessed with good people. So I always had people that wanted to be there because they wanted to make runs, they wanted to go to a lot of fires, and they wanted to train a lot. And they were type A. They didn't want a pat on the back. When you said, hey, we're going to move on and I'm going to teach you this, to them that was, I did a good job. I graduated, I'm getting something else. When I got someone that needed a pat on the back, I didn't know how to deal with it. When I got somebody that didn't just buy in.
Right.
Yeah, engine 3. Yeah, I made it to engine 3. Yeah, okay. I'm downtown. I'm going to do this. Oh, they train every day. I'm in. Like when the guys were more worried about like training every day meant working out every day. Like I didn't know how to deal with that at first. Like I literally had to have someone talk to me like, hey man, you're going to have to figure out how to deal with people's personalities different because everyone else, like they deal good with that. This guy ain't bought in. You're going to have to figure out how to get it through to him. So you learn from everybody. Like I learned from them. I learned from a ton of mentors, but you're a culmination of the people that put that time into you. Like I said, Ray Hildreth, Engine 3, second shift, mobile fire, biggest impact on my fire department career. Mike Smith, Engine 3 on first shift. I've been around him 13 years. Huge impact on my career, even though I've never worked under him. Bubba Vaucher, first shift, Engine 2. That not really worked with him a lot. Treasure every fire I go with him because he's that guy like they're going to talk about him for forever.
Right on.
But we make a fire, you have a tough fire or something, he'll call you and text you like, hey man, you did a good job, and you got like, that's the dude. It goes a long way. Like I said, I got a guy at first station I went to, he wasn't the captain, he was a driver, which is for a lot of things we look at like our senior man because that role's kind of really fallen off on our department because the city grew for a while, now it kind of shrunk down. But we went so long without hiring. We had to hire a lot of guys. And we're a young job. So a lot of the drivers are like our senior man. And he was like, he put it in my head first day. He's like, hey, check my blood sugar, my blood pressure. I was like, damn, bro, You got medical problems? He's like, no, but when you start getting details, you represent us, not you. Because if you can't do something right, that's a representation of us. I was like, okay. And that was like the first lesson he put in my head. And he's still to this day like the guy, if he hears something on the fire department and he thinks like we didn't uphold a standard, he's going to call me and get me the whole story. And if he thinks we didn't do something right, like he's going to call me out on it. If I got a question, I'm still going to call him. You know what I mean?
Nice. No, it's
he
very
hasn't
nice.
promoted. He chose to stay in that rank. So I outrank him now, but I'm still going to call him. Like, we don't work together anymore, but hey man, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And then the guys outside the fire department that were willing to take me into their circle and mold me, like that showed me a whole another level of mentorship, because the guys within the Mobile Fire Department didn't really have a choice. Like, yes, they had a choice on how much effort they put into me, but if I get assigned to you, you don't really have much of a choice but to work with me and try to do something with me. I do represent you. The guys like Todd, Kurt, Howard, Mo, Clyde, all these guys, Steve, Ray, all that, for them to bring me in and take the time and work with me and try to teach me this, take the time to talk to me on the phone. Hey man, I got a question about this building. What would you do? Oh man, we go through it all. Like, that shows a whole nother level of not just love for the job, but truly wanting to bring people up and make people better and leave this place better than they found it. You know, and I've really taken that to heart of like what people have put into me, and it's really made me really think like you're going to really impact generations, because if all those guys hadn't done that for me, what would I be offering the guys under me right now? Because what I would have made the same amount of fires. Like, and I would have worked where I worked, I would have made the same amount of fires. But would I have the same experiences from those fires?
Right.
Because I had the training to understand what was going on. But I had to, to know how to slow down, and I wasn't still going 100 miles an hour like a rookie. Would those guys have been there to keep me from becoming somebody that goes 10 toes up on a couch watching TV all day, every day? They held me accountable. So where would I be if they hadn't done that? And then if I hold people accountable and it has the same impact on them that it had on me, what's the impact going to be? Because they're going to be bosses one day too. So those guys have the generational impact, because it's not just me, it's going to go down the road. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, no doubt about it, man. And I'm going to catch you up with a lot of people here. Hold on. And so there's been a lot of comments made on on your preaching. Hold on, I got to refresh you here. And we got hose on the ground every day, throws and pulls. That's from Marco Rodriguez. Firehouse yoga from Tyler Whitfield. Find a peaceful spot and stretch, man. It's a great way to say it. Rich Anderson said, nothing boosts sagging morale like a good job. Joel Richardson, management doesn't control morale. Good job to his officer for keeping it in perspective. And that was your Engine 3 mentor. Drew Elliott called stretch relief, in quotation marks, baby. Stretch relief, baby. So I love it. Smoothbore Kyle said, that mindset has genuinely held over. I got to refresh it. I don't know what's doing it. But that mindset has genuinely bled over to Captain Rowett. He is one of the most knowledgeable and approachable dudes in the business. I have leaned on him several times personally for help. So, absolutely a lot of good stuff. Shane Bentley said, an awesome resource talking about awesome resources. There we go. Marco Rodriguez says he's got the next round on my Miller Lite. And so I told him I'll be in Pensacola. And then Todd mentioned, where'd Todd say this? Sorry, he asked me, when is your bathroom break? Rowett can talk for 50 minutes straight without a breath. One of my favorite things is watching him hold court. Also, the best designated driver in Pensacola.
Yeah, but see, Todd cheats everybody, because Todd calls me before we even get there.
There you go.
Todd makes sure I'm his designated driver before anybody else can get it.
He's got the inside track.
He's got that. I'm pretty close with him. He's got that benefiting him. But ultimately, he always wins because he's got Miss Kathy with him.
So I had a missed question here.
I'm not going to make Miss Kathy walk.
A missed question I got to throw right back at you, which is, Captain, how would you suggest bridging the gap from a department your size to a smaller department as far as mentoring, especially when folks move through the ranks at a quicker pace, sometimes outpacing abilities? Yeah, and that's from Tom Hollick. Tom Hollick asked that question. So good.
That same problem, I mean, just because we're a big job, like I said, we're young. So, like, I promoted young. It was just kind of the way the fire department went at the time. And now it's become pretty common for us to promote guys pretty young compared to what we used to. But really, my biggest thing, man, was, and it was taught to me, was what he said when we left with all the problems. Like, worry about what you can control. Worry about your station. Like, we could not control what the city was going to do. We could not control if the city said we're going to lay these guys off, if we're going to do furloughs, if we're going to do pay cuts. If they did pay cuts, that captain was going to take one too. Like it wasn't just him preaching like you guys got to be different. He was too, but he couldn't control any of that. We couldn't control any of that. So all his focus was he had to get our mindset back to where it needed to be, because that was what he could control. He couldn't control truck 4 in the firehouse. It's got its own boss. He could control engine 3. So that's what he took control of. There's a lot of things, man, in our department that ain't necessarily the perfect to me, you know. Can't control it all the time. There's a lot of things in the city I don't like. I can't control it. What I can control is those guys I'm working with and giving them the environment for them to grow and them to have the same opportunities those guys gave me. So focus on what you can control. If you can control what's in your firehouse, control that. If somebody else promoted too fast and they didn't really get their expertise right, you might have to deal with them because you might make fires with them. But if you're not working with them, it's kind of out of your control. Control what you can. Control who you work with. If you're with a shitty crew, I mean, they might be good guys, and we all know what that typically means in the fire department when you say, yeah, he's a good guy.
He's a good guy.
But followed by the word but. But man, find someone else to work with. Like, you know, like I said, I had nothing against the guys I worked with. When I first came on, I just felt like the other guy was the best opportunity for what I wanted. So I left. I'm still on good terms with all those guys. A lot of them told me that's the move you need to make. Like, his mindset and your mindset are parallel. Like,
right,
you guys should be working together. Go work with him. So control what you can control. If you can get a better crew, get a better crew. If you happen to get that boss that he's outpaced himself or she's outpaced herself, maybe have that honest conversation. We've had some guys that they're very honest when they promote, because we have a little bit of a screwed up system. So you can come through our department ranks as a fire medic. Everyone's a fireman in our department. So if you hire on as a medic, you're a fire medic. And you can get assigned to an ambulance as a private, which is our firefighter rank. So you ride an ambulance your whole time, you're a firefighter. Then you promote to driver, and you're assigned to an ambulance. And you stay on an ambulance your whole time as a driver. But now you want to be a captain. Well, once you get promoted, there's no more spot on that ambulance for you. You are a boss on an engine, and you don't have the experience level. So we've had two things happen with that. We've had some guys that go in there and it's like, I got this collar brass now. I got to be in charge. I got to make the decision. And we've had other guys that come in very humble. Say, look, you guys got more experience than me. Yes, I'm in charge. I'm gonna lean on you. Okay, one of those guys. I mean, we got a guy that it kind of went that path. Before he made captain, he had given up the pay raise to have a medic license to get on a fire truck, get some experience before promoting to captain. He made captain. He went to an engine near us and he called us up. He's like, man, I know you guys train all the time. We're right down the road from the training center. He's like, I know you guys typically go there on the weekend where there's not people around. You can just do your thing and not be bothered by people. Can we join?
Nice.
Whatever you guys do, we want to join in with you. And what that did, it didn't just pass on some stuff. It built a really good working relationship between two crews that are very, very competitive with each other.
Right, and built trust, yeah.
Two crews that both of them hold a lot of pride amongst all three shifts that they are the top of the fire department. And we're right next to each other, racing each other into each other's areas. So it built a better relationship. And
that's awesome, man.
Together.
That's freaking awesome.
If that's the situation you're in, sometimes those hard conversations, a lot of people don't want to have them, but the best thing you can do is have that conversation. And maybe that person says, well, shit, yeah, you guys do have more to offer. You have more experience than I do. At the end of the day, those promotional books are only so much, paper burns.
There you go.
That experience is where it matters. So if you can get that person to understand, you're not saying they're not in charge. You're offering to pass on what you learned through experience. Maybe if it's just to the point that even if they're hard-headed, that when they get on scene and something in their gut ain't right, that they are listening to what you have to say before they just make a decision. So, bam, I made the decision. They are saying, hey, what do you think? Because you do have that experience to maybe see something they don't that will prevent that situation that we all don't want to see happen.
Absolutely.
So that's what I would say, man. Control what you can. And that might just be, maybe that boss is just a turd and nothing's going to fix it. There's still other people in the firehouse unless you're only riding two. Make it your day's goal that you're going to help that person.
Right
You're
on.
going to pass on what you have to them. And whether you like that boss or not, end of the day, you're a reflection of them. So if you make them look like shit, you made yourself look like shit in the process. So end of the day, maybe you could put all the work in and they're not worth the shit, but you're going to make them look good. Everyone's going to know the real deal. Everyone knows who the shitbags are. So if you make them look good at the fire, everyone knows who it really was. They know they're a shitbag and you did all the work. So at the end of the day, the chiefs know that, the other captains know that, the other firemen know that, and that's going to follow you through. So I would just have that, if you have to have that tough conversation, see where it goes, control what you can, help who you can, and make your job better.
Perfect, man. Perfect. And you mentioned paper burns, which is a great segue going right into, I always like to ask my guests if there are a book or books that they think firefighters should be reading.
All right, yeah. So I'm going to have a little bit of a list for you because I read kind of the same thing everybody does, and I don't want to just say the same ones all the time. So
Okay,
there
fair.
are some that are going to be the same.
Sure.
But I honestly do think you need to get outside of just reading fire books.
100%.
I'm all about reading books in the fire department. Love the fire department. If you know me, you know it's fire department on my brain nonstop. And I like reading, but if it's not the fire department, it's probably putting me to sleep. Where the fire department, I can sit down with a book and just read. But a few that I really like that aren't fire department, I really try to read a lot of military stuff, even though I wasn't in the military, because I think we're a paramilitary organization, but a lot of our leadership stuff is going to come, from the military.
Sure.
So we might have to change headphones here in a minute. Have these pink ones.
Just you do you.
One I really like is the You Can't Hurt Me with David Goggins.
Nice.
I do like that book. It's just a mindset book. Like, man, like nothing's going to stop me. You can't stop me. I don't care if you don't like me. We're going to do our way, and we're going to get through anything. It's called I'm Staying With My Boys. It's a biography of John Basilone in World War II, New Jersey guy. But Medal of Honor recipient and chooses to go back to war because he wants to be, with his brothers in Marine Corps. Gets killed, but a story of brotherhood, man. Like, they give you the out. You got the Medal of Honor for what you did. They give you the out, and you still know I'm going to be with them. Like, I really enjoyed that book. The Men, the Mission, and Me. That's another really good one, military-wise. And then the fire department. Everyone knows. I'll say this one first because everyone knows I'm going to say it. Chief McGrail's Standpipe book, obviously. That's obviously going to be me.
I like it.
Honestly, one of my favorite books is Chief Turpak's Size Up book. I really like that book. I think there's so much information packed into that book.
Fireground Size Up, yeah.
It's really packed in a good way that you get everything. Like, you read it, it's Size Up, but it takes Size Up and it builds the tactics in through your Size Up, the way you would have to, you size up a building and then you decide your tactics. So I like the way it's written. It's got a ton of information in it.
Hold on, we got to change headsets.
Hold on, no, you don't. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
No, that sounds great.
Okay, you're just coming through the computer then.
Yep.
That was a bad idea. So what I say, Chief McGrail's. Other one I would say Vincent Dunn's Collapse of Burning Buildings. Ton of information in that. I like Tom Brennan's Random Thoughts. That's one of my favorite books to go back to. And I only got 4 of the 6 in my hand because I got some people borrowing them. But I think these are awesome resources right here. The Fire Notes from FDTN, man, they're quick reads. Not a lot of information. Not a lot of fluff. It's all straight information. Quick reads. You're not sitting down like forever to get through something. It's all just packed full of information. And I mean, written by legends, man. Like, there's so much information in those little books. You take this, you could take this anywhere you want in a bag. Not a big.
Right.
It's not take it anywhere you want. And it's just straight up full of information. Those are probably some of my favorite to read is those right there, just because there is no fluff. You're not reading through any fluff.
Just straight meat.
Straight information.
Caveman diet type deal. Yes.
Like I said, the Tom Brennan's Random Thoughts, man. That's probably. I like to fire the FDTN books, but just for something to flip back and like, hey, I want to read something, because you're not reading the whole chapter. It's like you're reading an article. And all it is articles. So it's like, I'm going to read a page or two. I'm going to get a ton of information. And then, of course, being an engine guy, the book of Andy, of course.
Hard to knock, man. Little drops. Awesome, dude. I think you tried to challenge Romagus on most books suggested.
I knew so many of them had been said before that I was like, I don't want to just say the same ones. So some of them, they kind of need to be said.
Absolutely, dude. No, you killed it, man. You killed it, brother. Killed it. Now we have a thing on the weekly scrap. I don't know. We've done 100 episodes now. You're 101, but I don't know if I can do anything but the 5 questions for firefighters. At some point, I'm probably going to find the next 5 questions. You know, because every answer I think might, but it's not tonight. We got the 5 questions.
Yeah.
I want the audience to start thinking about it. If you can think of the next 5 questions and questions that should be asked, send them to me. Facebook Messenger, Twitter, Instagram, wherever. Send me what you think should be the next 5 questions for firefighters, because we're getting to that point. But for tonight, we're going to get Anthony Rowett's answers. Now, here's the deal. The answers are completely your opinion. There is no right or wrong. The points are arbitrary. They're assigned by me. So, Captain Anthony Rowett, are you ready for the 5 questions for firefighters?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. Number 1, what is the number 1 issue facing the modern fire service?
To me, we talked about it with the disability stuff, but it's communication. To me, without communication, there's no understanding in anything. And what we do, we understand people. So both in who we deal with, but in the firehouse, you got to understand people, man. We're willing to put our lives on line for each other. We got to understand each other. And it's just, with what's going on in the world today, a lot of times people are afraid to communicate because they're afraid they might hurt someone's feelings, they might get in trouble, all this kind of stuff. Then you still got some people, it's a generational thing. For me, I was blessed in who I worked with. The senior guys I worked with, those 30 plus year guys, they weren't the Y generation, but they understood that I was.
Right.
They understood that if they gave me a why, how much more I was going to process it and really just dive into it. So where they didn't just give you the why right away. Like my biggest mentor, man, he'd create a machine. You knew what to do and how to do it, and that's what you got. But if you asked the why, he would take the time with you.
Right on.
There's rules with why. Don't ask on scene why you made that call. That ain't the time. But when you get back to the firehouse and you're taking a promotion exam, you're studying. Hey, what did you see that made you make that call? How did you know to tell us to back up? How did you know to do this? What did you see? And then you get that why, and then you really get that understanding. But to me, it's communication. One, I think the generation thing is getting a lot better. At least in my experience, our job, it is a lot better. I think just the things going on in the world today, people are afraid to communicate. Again, blessed with who I work with, man. It's just, it doesn't matter. Like the racial stuff, we got a split crew. We're 50-50. And that stuff doesn't matter to anybody. If stuff's going on in the world and someone wants to talk, like they talking it, there ain't feelings involved. It's like, man, I want your perspective. Okay, get the perspective. We also understand each other better. So if you don't have that, I think that's the biggest thing right now that's going to hold people back, especially when people are afraid they might get in trouble for communicating.
Right.
And so that instead of squashing an issue, they're afraid to deal with it. So that issue builds and builds and builds until it becomes something that explodes, where it should have never been an issue in the beginning because it was a misunderstanding. It wasn't meant to be this way, the way it was taken or something like that. So I think it comes down to communication. With communication, you gain understanding, and if you don't have that, everything else falls apart.
I don't think you can have a wrong answer with communication, because that dude, 100%. I think it's a problem in every marriage, every relationship, every father-son, father-daughter, mother-daughter. I mean, yeah, just across the board.
Oh, by the way, best house in the city of Mobile right there, by the way.
There you go.
I meant to do that earlier. I forgot.
Fair enough. No, love it. Guys who are asking on the list of books. Okay, here's the deal. If you go to Firehouse Vigilance on Facebook, there is a link to a document that has every book listed on the scrap by the guests up to episode 50, because that's what I've gotten to. So half of them are up, okay? Eventually, I promise you, I will get the rest up. I add about 10 a month, and so someday I'll catch up.
Well, between me and Kyle, you're going to struggle.
I finally got past Kyle's first episode. So anyway, no, it was great. And it is a great resource, and there's a lot of them on there. It's up to episode 50. I will continue to update it. My problem is, like with a lot of things, I should have just made a list. Instead, I had to go find artwork and put a picture of the book up there and get a link and so you can click on it and find it on Amazon. And so it takes time, and I'm slow at it. So, all right, but
you did that, you can't stop doing that.
I know I have to keep it up. So it's
the standard.
Number 2. Let me get my notes back up. Like I haven't asked these over and over. What is the thing you are most excited about for the future of firefighting?
I think it's what there is a negative to social media in the fire service because you no longer have information being vetted, but you do have that ability to get outside of your world. Um, I think that and the resource it's creating, but the small conferences and people are learning about it through social media. Those conferences, man, the people you get to hear, you get to learn from and learn from experience. A lot of departments might not have that level of experience. Um, it just is what it is. Some places make a lot more fires than others. And what you can gain from somebody that's been there and done that, and especially with things like size up or your tactics, if you're promoting, it's not your fault if your fire department doesn't go to a lot of fires. I mean, you can't control that. You're doing everything on your part.
Right.
But the training's great and it's going to take you a long way, but it can't replace experience. Nothing can. So what you can gain by not just reading it in a book and not just going out and running through reps. Like I'm all for it. Reps make you better, but they're not everything. Like the experience matters. It really does. That's Steve Robertson right there, another buddy. Experience matters. But I've heard it enough, right? It comes into my mind. But it really does. I mean, if you can go to a conference and you listen to Ray McCormack talk, and you have to go to a fire in one of those buildings, like your job might not do that very often. That might be every few years, maybe more. But for him, it was all the time. So what you gain from that all the time experience of what he saw or what he processed, and what was first in his mind, what kind of fell down the list that maybe you thought was the top of the list of importance. That stuff's really going to really make a difference for you one day. And especially when it comes to a Mayday or something like that, where there's no thinking anymore. There was no reading a book. It's going to be instinct. And there's only so much you can make that condition of your training real. So hearing from people that really have to do it and have been in those situations, what really made a difference, or, man, there wasn't time to do this. We didn't even think about this. That stuff's going to matter because it's going to be your mindset that's going to make the outcome of that situation what it ends up being.
Dude, 1,000%, dude. Micro conferences, the local conference, they are so badass, man. And the networking, like you've listed off so many people. It's like I get to call people because of these conferences. I get to call people like Howard Reinwald, Kyle Romagus, Kurt Isaacson. I get to call them friends now because of these conferences and the networking ability of it, man.
I mean, first off, it brought me to Alabama, but I never thought I'd come down here when I lived in New Jersey. But, man, it's given me things I could have never imagined. First, I mean, it's taken me to so many places in the country, but the friends I have and the mentors I have, dude, and that's where it all came from, was those conferences. And for me, it all started for me in MAFC in Atlanta and Pensacola Beach.
No, I actually texted Todd Edwards.
On it and
Todd Edwards today. I texted him. I said, "Hey, I'm getting ready to have Anthony on. I want some questions to ask him about disabilities and stuff." And we talked for a minute just to prep, and that's the network. That's the network, man. It's just awesome, man.
Yep.
And the humility and willingness.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. Yeah, 100%. Max points, by the way, on that unbelievably good answer. So, question 3. We're moving through them. Best rank or position to be in the fire service. You touched on it earlier, so I'd be surprised if I don't know.
Up until probably 2-3 years ago, I'd have told you the nozzle man all day long. Like, can't beat it. You're putting the fire out. You're taking the most heat. You're everything. That hard push down the hallway at the end of the day, no one else can say they did what you did. Like, the boss, I'm right there with you, but you had the nozzle. You were the man that day. But what it's come to for me now, and through, like I said, I work with some good people, man, bought in as could be, training all the time, going to conferences. I don't have to push them. Like I said, I'm in there working out in the gym one day, and they're out flowing water off a hydrant, working on flowing and moving. Like, I work with good people. So to see them put the effort in, and then when we make that hard push down a hallway, and it's that fire where it wasn't an easy push down. You struggled, but you were successful. You got it out. You had a successful fire, and you see that younger guy come out, and all the culmination of that work they put in with you on their own, going to a conference, all of it came together and built them success, especially if it was where a fire, another crew was struggling, stuff like that. Things didn't go right, and it really played out. Man, that for me is where it is. I told the story when we were in Texas. You were there. Yeah, I think you were sitting by him. But we had a Mayday fire, and his his best friend was the guy in a lot of trouble, and he played a big part in us getting him out and it being minimal burns because the biggest issue was he got overrun by fire. And I was one of the guys inside. We're trying to get him out. I had him at the door with that line, and he couldn't hear me hollering to open the nozzle, but he recognized those smoke conditions from doing flashover training and all this kind of stuff. His instinct made the difference. And to see him come back to the station, and you see he's hurting because it was his buddy.
Sure.
But you see the culmination of all of his effort, everything he did from all the classes he took on fire behavior to nozzles to this to that, it made a successful outcome that wasn't just he put the fire out. He knows what that outcome could have been had he not put all the work in. So to see someone that you've seen them grow, you've seen them, especially someone that you've had as a rookie, and you see them come all the way up, they do all that work and they find success. To me, that's the best part. So the engine boss to me is where it's at.
Awesome, man. And if you know the scrap, if you know me at all, so this is the easiest one to get max points on. I'm not saying you did. I'm just saying is that there is nothing better than company officer, period. Max points if you say company officer. So Brendan's random thoughts. Okay. Sorry, I'm making a note. All right. Number 4, best advice you have ever received.
I'm going to go with, I'm going to outwork you. You outwork me. Because everything builds off of that.
Nice.
He told me that. It really set in that day like, okay, this dude's 20 years older than me, and his goal is to outwork me. Okay, well, I'm over there like 20 years old. Like, I'm not gonna stop. You
sure.
can't hurt me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I can just work. No, I'm young. I'm invincible. But man, I really carried that through, and I think it builds into everything because it's not just. Yeah, it's easy to say I'm gonna outwork you at a fire. Like, yeah, adrenaline's going. No, what about in the firehouse? What about when we go to the drill field? What about in every moment of what we do? I'm going to outwork you, so you better outwork me. And what does that do for us as a company? And more important, if all of that comes together, what does that do for the citizen that called us? When it's not the bullshit. It's a legitimate call. Something's on the line there. Someone's life's on the line. The outcome's going to be probably a lot better if you got guys like that showing up. And they've put all that effort in day after day after day to build up to that one moment. Because that's all we're doing. We're putting all this effort in for a culmination in one moment. That's all it's for. Is that one time somebody really needs you. All of that was for that. And then you keep doing it for the next time. So to me, that was the best advice because it gave me a mindset.
Right on.
But I've always worked around those people. So like the captain on the ladder truck in the house with me. That dude will work. He's 50 years old and he will work till he can't stand. Like, that's who he is. He's just going to work and work and work. If there's something to do, he's not going. It's not about like, oh well, we already did our part. Let the other companies do it. He's going to say, no, let's go. We still got work to do. Let's go work. And I mean, he's going to go till he falls out. So, man, that's the best advice for me because if you lead me like that, man, I'll go anywhere with you.
1,000%, dude. And
anything you tell me to do, I wouldn't go do for you if you were willing to work that hard.
And Shane Bentley said it best, right? He said, I will row in this dude's boat any day, any time, man. And that wraps it up right there. No doubt about it, dude. I love that. And it's, say the advice again, it's, I'm going
to outwork you, so you got to outwork me. That was his goal.
Back and forth. I love it, man.
He came to work. His goal was to outwork all of us, and our goal had to be to outwork him.
I love it, man. Okay. Final question. I love that, by the way. So you get, again, max points. I have to tell you when you get max points.
But like I said, not mine. That's Ray Hildress.
Hey. If that's the question, best advice you ever received, and you received it. Not only that, but it sounds like you're carrying it on through your actions. So that's what else do you need? No, there you go. Yeah, I see you. I got you. Heavy fire, searchable space. Would you rather be assigned to the nozzle or first in on VES?
Yeah, we're going with the nozzle on that one.
Taking the knob.
I will say, I'm going to give fair on here. I'm an engine guy, always been an engine guy. I work on a truck in overtime, which we rarely ever work anymore. And my main time swap buddy, he works on the truck. So like yesterday, I worked a time swap on the truck company in the house with me, but 99.9% of the time I'm on an engine my whole career. So I'm going with the engine. It's what I do. It's what I know. But man, there's no feeling better turning the block and you see it blowing out the windows, and you're the first due engine. It's all going to rely on you. If you fuck up, everybody's screwed. Like, if you're on the engine and you don't get it right and you're first due, you're probably going to screw the whole operation up. Like, they're really behind the 8 ball, and fixing what you do is going to be rarely, achievable to the point that it didn't really affect the operation. It's going to have screwed something up. People lost more of their shit. So it's really on you. We work I'm in a double house, so we pull up, the truck's right there with us.
Sure.
A really condensed area. So a lot of times we pull up, man, as Dennis Laguerre says, the synchrony of air brakes. You know what I mean? Like, we all pull up at the same time, but like, if they're going up above me or they're going ahead of us, like, that's a bond right there that he knows I've got his back.
He knows you got. Yeah, I love that.
I can't screw up at this point.
No doubt.
So knowing that kind of stuff, like, it's relying on you. People's stuff relies on you, and people's shit matters to me. Like, it is what it is. I don't care what a book says. Like, their stuff matters to me. That's another thing my mentor taught me when I first came on. He said, man, other than these high-rise buildings, everything on the outskirts of our run area, these people don't have insurance. So all this people talk about, oh, they got insurance.
Yeah.
No, their shit matters, because if we don't save it, they don't have it anymore. Like, no one's replacing it.
Love it.
So people's shit matters to me. So if you screw up, man, people's shit burned up.
It's almost like someone important said, how the first line goes, so goes the fire type deal. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. But and then, like, man, you got your buddy might be above you. He might be on the floor above. Another crew might be up there. They might be searching ahead of you. If you screw up, man, you put them in a really, really bad spot. And like I said, that guy, he's been a mentor for me, Steve McAvoy, my whole career. And now we work together. And if he goes in front of me or he goes above me, when he comes past me, he taps me on the shoulder and looks. If I give him that nod, like, I recognize what you're doing, man, I'm not leaving that spot. Yeah, you get back to here, and I'll be here. Like, if they back us out, you get to here, I've got your back.
Love that.
So if you screw up that first line, nothing else is going to go right. So you can't beat the first due engine. So I'm going to go with that.
I don't think I've ever had a more passionate and elaborated answer. That was straight up. I want the knob, and I'm going. I'm making the stretch.
No,
I know, 100%. No,
I got a way to talk. So Todd emphasized that. So.
No doubt about it. I will say this to you, Anthony, please, when you get a chance, because there was a lot of comments directed towards you that I couldn't get to, and that's not. It's just so when you get a chance, go back and read them, because I missed them. T.A. Carlson said you did a great job in Kima this last spring. Keep up the good work. Looking forward to seeing you again at future conferences. And there was a lot of that type of stuff. So do take the time, because I couldn't fit it in. So,
yeah, I will. Yeah, that's because I talk a lot. That's Todd.
Todd did mention that.
Yeah.
So
he mentions it to everybody. That's
awesome.
why I tell people he's old.
Joe, I believe it was Joe. I'm scrolling. But if it's not Joe, let me know. Something about chafing. Todd keeps mentioning something about chafing.
Yeah, so we had an incident. So we do a live fire class here in Fairhope, which is across the bay. One of my guys, he's a captain over there in charge of training for their volunteer department. They got awesome resources, man. Great burn building, and they are into training. They buy like 400 club tickets to CFT, and this is a 100% volunteer department. They're sending 4 guys to every conference.
Nice.
They bring us in once a year. Todd and myself have been doing a class for them every year, at least once a year, since like 2018. And this year it was myself, Todd, Mick from Top Floor Tactics, Brandon Strickland, who runs the Alabama Smoke Diver program, the Fast Board guys, and we'll just say it was quite warm. It was June, in bunker gear all day, and I had a little bit of a chafing issue after the first day. So walking from our hotel to the bar was an issue.
Fair.
And on the second day, which was the all live fire scenario day, after every scenario, we had to come out. I'd go to my truck before they debriefed all the students. We tell them to go take their gear off. I go to my truck. I'd strip down a little bit, get a towel out, dry off, reapply the Boudreaux's butt paste, and suffer through the next scenario, if you will.
Right on.
A little bit of an incident.
A little bit of a man check is what you're saying.
Yeah, it was in a bad spot, too.
Fair enough, man.
It was very, very uncomfortable. So Todd would walk behind me as we walked to the bar, and from the bar to the next bar, and then from that bar to the hotel. He would walk behind me and laugh the whole time. But that's probably Joe Pettis that wrote that. He's one of my guys.
Okay.
He's the guy that runs their training program, and he had told me he was going to put some stuff in there tonight, so I figured something was coming.
Fair enough. Fair enough. There it is. To Joe Morrison, the book list. You Can't Hurt Me from David Goggins. Tell me, Anthony, if I missed some of them. Hold on, let me refresh Anthony. Hold on. Speaker. Gallery. Okay, I got him back. You Can't Hurt Me, David Goggins. I'm Staying With My Boys. I didn't catch the author.
Here, I'll show it to you. I got it right here.
The Man, the Mission, and Me. There you go. Oh, Barcelona. Okay, no, I know Barcelona. Yeah, Pacific. Yeah.
Jersey boy.
I wrote down World War I, but no. Yeah, okay.
World War II.
Yes. Absolutely. Fireground Size Up from Turpak. High Rise Operations from Dave McGrail. Fire Notes, FDTN. The Book of Andy. And then Brennan's Random Thoughts. Did I miss one in there? That's my notes, so.
I think you got them all.
Okay, so there you go. And also, it's recorded.
Oh, the Mission and Me. Did you get that one?
That was in there. The second one.
Yeah, I think that
I
was.
can't remember who wrote it, but it's a great book. So,
Pete something. I can't think of the last name.
all right. John said, "This is why Clay and I carry you. Avoid the chafing." That was from Naninga.
This is true. Again, you can go on Clay's Facebook page and see a video of that. At H-Rock last year, the two 6-foot gigantic people decided to sneak up behind me and pick me up by my armpits and just carry me around for everyone to see how small I am. And then when we took a picture, they all squatted down so that they could look like children like me.
Awesome, man. My housekeeping. First of all, tell people where they can get a hold of you, book you, get information from you, reach out to you. Go.
All right. Facebook and Instagram. Don't do the Twitter thing. Couldn't figure it out when I tried it. So I'm on Facebook and Instagram, both with a personal page. Anthony Rowett on Facebook, A Rowett on Instagram. I don't really use the personal pages much, so if you go on them, you're really going to see pictures of my kids. My wife tags me in. Everything I put out, I pretty much put through the Port City page. So Facebook, Instagram, Port City Fire Training, internet, portcityfiretraining.com. You can email me at portcityfiretraining@gmail.com. Anything engine, we can talk. If it's other thing, I probably don't know enough about it. I will direct you in the correct direction, but it's not my expertise, and I stay in my lane.
I love it. I love it. Okay. Coming up on the scrap, I'm going to Water on the Fire next week. This is the last one before Water on the Fire. And then the next one is on September 3rd. So there's quite a hiatus in there. I may reach out to somebody, see if somebody wants to fill in, because August 16th to September 3rd seems like a long one. So anyway, not the point. We'll see if I can find out. Rob Backer, Art of Reading Smoke, the guy who inherited it from Dotson, man. So he's coming on September 3rd. I loved his class if you haven't taken it. Then it's Craig Stalloway out of Denver. Trey Nelms out of Nashville. Steve Robertson. So there's a bunch of names that were mentioned in the scrap tonight.
Yeah, I missed the bunch, man. I focused on the few.
Dude. Every time I try to mention names, one I'm
I put out.
Super excited about. September 26th, Jim McCormick of FDTN is actually going to be on the scrap. That was a Herculean effort. I thank Kurt for making that happen. Anyway, so there's a lot coming up tonight. Okay, I got to do my coins, because the guys from Spartanburg City, man, they hooked me up with their coin that was designed by their training chief. Man, you got the honey. I don't know if it'll focus. Come on, do it. Yeah, there you go. You see the honey badger there? All the tools. Strengthen your resolve. Cut your teeth. Sharpen your skills. And on the back, it's talking about be better today than yesterday, and for them. So it was Brad, Brian, Ben, and Jared. And absolutely loved meeting these guys. I cannot wait to come to Spartanburg. Thank you for the coin. I like to say that one. And then, of course, I went to the End of the Job Fire Symposium. There it is, the Train More Bitch Less. I'm, of course, sporting the hat today, because everybody who knows me knows I have a hat addiction. Let me see. I'm like, these are the ones I came back with, because, like I said, I have a hat problem. My wife, so that's the one I'm working
I got that one right there.
Yeah, that's Bears of the Oath.
Shane, I got that one.
So, anyway, these are yeah. So, I have a hat problem. Anyway, there you go. That's all the housekeeping done. What else is there? Todd Edwards said it best. Mutts don't scrap. Guys, I love each and every one of you for tuning in each week and hanging out with me and the guests that I can trick into coming in here and talking to me. It's so much fun. There's like a few hats left to buy on the website if you want to go get them. There's not many left. I'm trying to order more, but it's really hard to find Richardson's. And like I said, I'm a hat snob.
I talked to our hat guy today. Well, my guy talked to him today. He said they're completely out.
Dude, they're smoked.
at least a month before you can
Yes.
even get it.
Yes. I actually went driving around to local sporting goods stores that do like local teams, and I like bought their hats. And so, so anyway, I have a pile of like random colors. I don't know what I'm going to do with them yet, but yeah. So anyway, Water on the Fire. I will see you there next Monday. If you see me at the conference, man, come up, talk to me, get a picture with me because I want to do the Mutts Don't Scrap pictures. And other than that, Anthony Rowett, dude, you've killed it tonight.
Oh man, I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody listening. I'm just a guy, man. I just love it. Nothing special. I just been brought up by some good guys. I appreciate you letting me come on here.
Thanks.
I'll see you next week. I'll be there. What is it? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'll be there Wednesday and Thursday. It's my youngest son's birthday, the first day of the conference. So
Nice, dude. I look forward to seeing you.
I'll be over there the second two.
I look forward to not sharing a brew with you, and you can have a Coke.
I'll have a water.
There you go. I love it.
I can tell you who's going to have already got me as their designated driver.
I'll hang out with Todd. That way I'll have a ride no matter what.
That's the trick. Hang out with Todd. If Miss Kathy's there, he knows he's got a designated driver.
That's awesome, man. All right. For everybody, thank you for tuning in. Thanks for the questions, the comments. I love you all. I hope the tone stays silent. Unless it's burning, stay safe out there.